Hello, Aries, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and this will be your mid-month check-in for mid-March 2023 into the beginning of April. This reading will be for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you know your three major placements, you can listen to any and all of the readings that apply, as each one may resonate for you differently. And as always, before we get started, please do keep in mind these readings are general in nature and are meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals. So that means not all of the details that come through will necessarily be for you. I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate, however that might apply to your specific situation, and you can simply leave the rest. So definitely use your own discretion in knowing what's best for you. But yeah, so welcome Aries, happy March, happy early birthday. We're right in the middle of March, so I think around like the 21st or 22nd will see us entering Aries season. So I will wish you a happy early birthday for those of you that celebrate at the end of the month. I hope you guys have a wonderful time and enjoy celebrating yourselves and being in your own energy, whatever that looks like for you. So I've got your tarot card here. I've got your oracle message here. I'll pull some tarot, share a couple of channeled messages from before I started the reading, and we will finish off with a final oracle message and some affirmations for you. So before we get started and jump into the cards, I will quickly share with you the channeled energetic impression that I was picking up on as I was preparing for your reading. So the thing that I was like really sensing was kind of like being invigorated, maybe like a little bit hyper, a little bit overactive. This could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be both. It could be, having a sense of motivation, or it could just be having things be really, really busy, like maybe a lot of things on the go, having your hand in a lot of things, a lot of stuff to cross off your list. But I very much got the sense of things going a mile a minute. Being kind of Speedy Gonzalez was the thing that came up specifically. And then, so of course, along with that, there is a sense of like frantic, kind of like frantic, busy, chaotic energy, like lots to be done, lots to be done. So, and when the feeling of like frantic came up, it's like it could be bad or good, right? Because sometimes, when you're feeling like really invigorated, really energized, and you've got a lot of stuff on your list, it can be kind of like exciting to like buckle down and see how much you can get done. But other times it's like stressful, it's not sustainable, right? So if you do resonate with that energy at all, or you're finding that you're in a particularly busy or chaotic season, I would just take a moment to check in with yourself and see, like, if things are a little bit frantic, is it in a good way or a bad way? Are you harnessing that energy in a way that feels good and productive, or is it stressing you out? Is it taking time away from maybe the things that need your attention? So yeah, just check in with yourself and make sure that your approach is sustainable, so that you don't end up burning yourself out. Okay, so the next thing that I picked up on also was a sense of perhaps dissociating. This may be something that you've done historically. Maybe it's something that you're aware of, that you're working on. Maybe you don't even realize if and when you're doing it because it's just subconscious. But yeah, so kind of like disconnecting, dissociating yourself so that you're not going to have much in the way of thoughts or feelings about your experiences or relationships or the people around you. It can be a sense of being like a little bit numb or apathetic. And sometimes we go through periods where we do have to kind of hermit a little bit. And sometimes that dissociation is self-protective because we just don't have the resources to invest. And if you identify with that, I would just say like being aware of how much you're dissociating, how often, how it's making you feel. And we don't want to stay in that place for too long, right? Because the longer that we stay there and the more we're disconnected from ourselves and others, obviously the more time and effort it takes to kind of reel ourselves back in and reconnect. So Yeah, so there's kind of a sense of like you might be doing one thing but thinking about another. Um, so there could be a disconnect in terms of your energy. So your mental energy might be in one place, focused on one thing, your emotional energy might be focused on something else, and your physical energy might be participating in something entirely different. And so the goal would be to kind of slowly but surely bring those energies into alignment so that the thoughts, feelings, and actions are all kind of moving in the same direction. And regardless of whether things are feeling easy or difficult this month, that should kind of help you flow through your experiences a little bit better. Yeah, and there's also a sense of doing something that you don't want to do. And I think it's only human to kind of feel that reluctance or avoidance when we're participating in something that isn't particularly enjoyable or gratifying in the moment. But it's also important to recognize that if we are constantly avoiding our feelings or avoiding those experiences, especially the experiences that we find to be uncomfortable, if we're dissociating, if we're avoiding, then we're not seeing what the universe is trying to show us, right? Because what came through when I was working through this was that even the things that we don't want to do, sometimes especially the things that we don't want to do or we feel reluctant or avoidant of, those are the very things that have lessons for us. And perhaps the reason that we feel avoidant is because there's a lesson. There's something longing to be recognized. There's something longing to be changed or released or worked through in whatever it is that we are not particularly enjoying. And the unfortunate thing is that if we're consistently dissociating or avoiding it, then we're not really allowing ourselves the opportunity to experience it and to recognize, like, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I experiencing? What does that mean? Like, what is this? What is my struggle with this situation showing me or trying to teach me? What am I being guided to recognize and perhaps change or release, right? So the unfortunate thing in that sense is that it's very difficult to work through and move past and release a challenging energy if we're dissociating or if we're avoiding, right? And so, especially if you're avoiding it because it's unpleasant and you don't like it, it's liable to linger a lot longer than it potentially needs to, simply because we're not stepping into having that experience and figuring out what it's trying to show us. So, I know that's not an easy energy. I'm not going to pretend like it's just, oh, okay, like just do it. It's not super fun. Um, and even to get to the point where you're willing to work through that, it may take time and practice. Um, but the one thing that I will say is that perhaps instead of looking at it with that reluctance, it's okay to identify with that. It's okay to experience that. I think it's important to kind of normalize that we're going to have a sense of maybe a sense of reluctance of those things that we don't want to do. And that's okay, but still kind of being open to approaching the situation with curiosity and seeing, like, could this potentially be showing me something that could work for me? How is the world working with me to help advance me, help move me on? So it's basically saying, like, excuse me, there could very well be a gift in the midst of something that seems like it's not necessarily a blessing. And it's just a matter of kind of remaining open and curious to what you're being shown in order for you to receive it. So, yeah, I'll leave that one up to you guys, obviously. Okay, so we're going to get right into your cards now. So, your oracle message for this month, or the remainder of this month, is higher power, and it's card number 4. And this is interesting because I think you guys have had this card before. So immediately, as soon as I saw that higher power came out again, and that it's card number 4, the thing that always comes up for me is, like, kind of, it's a very foundational energy. It's kind of about stability, like having a sense of a firm foundation to support you in order to build upon that. So I will say first and foremost that if you're experiencing something that's leaving you feeling a little bit unstable, unsure, if there's been some kind of shakeup and things are not necessarily going to plan, you may be looking for a sense of stability in your external environment. So that could be like money or job or career or relationships or, specific routines, maybe, wanting things to be the same as they've always been. So if you're going through a period of change or transition where you're feeling as though the stability that you would like is not quite there, or the way that you're used to things going is no more, this is really encouraging you to recognize that that stability is kind of something you're being guided this month to cultivate for yourself in, hand in hand, with spirit, essentially. So however you'd like to approach that kind of aspect of spirituality, whether it's like, your higher power, God, goddess, however you want to refer to it, the universe. But it's about kind of co-creating a foundational sense of stability within yourself with spirit, right? And so you are kind of being guided to put a little bit more importance on spirituality, spiritual practice, spiritual connection, and taking time to connect with yourself intuitively, right? Because it's very difficult for us to maintain a relationship to spirit and to be open to gaining that kind of higher wisdom and kind of seeing how everything is connected and divinely guided when we're disconnected from ourselves. So sometimes it requires us to pour into ourselves, maybe do something like any spiritual practice. If you're into meditation, grounding exercises, if you have a spiritual practice, like you're into like cards or whatever, anything that will help you kind of get in that energy. This is a relationship that you're being asked to foster this month, because as difficult as it may seem, particularly if you're somebody that really, really leans heavily on having that stability in a very tangible, material way, it can be difficult to feel comfortable without that. And so this is basically saying, like, you have the opportunity to work with spirit to kind of strengthen your relationship to self, strengthen your relationship to spirit, and to cultivate a sense of personal, emotional, spiritual stability for yourself that can't be taken away from you, right? And that even in the most difficult times, and even through the most kind of transitional periods, right? That's something that's yours, that you get to cultivate and maintain. And it's kind of like having this untouchable space, right? This untouchable space of stability to return to, right? And this is what helps you have clarity in navigating difficult situations, right? So the more we're able to connect to ourselves, the more we're able to receive our kind of inner wisdom, connect with our higher selves, and connect with our spirit guides, the easier it is to kind of remain unchanged by the external events, or just the passing situations and experiences that we might be kind of surrounded by right now. So this is kind of the stage that you're in right now, is that and perhaps looking at anything that's uncomfortable, anything that you do feel reluctant to, anything that's kind of challenging you, as perhaps that is moving you in this direction, right? If you're being asked to become a little bit more spiritual, to connect with yourself, to foster that connection, to lean on your intuition, and to know who you are, and to ask yourself, like, how do I move forward in a way that's in the good of all? What is the kindest and most loving way to handle this situation, right? So having that connection to yourself and this higher power, allowing yourself to feel and to be moved by that higher power in that relationship, is going to help you navigate these situations in your life that might otherwise feel challenging or difficult, right? So it's basically like, instead of allowing the external circumstances and how you feel about them guide your actions and your emotions, it's instead taking the time to connect with yourself, connect with that higher power, to find a loving and kind way to move through the situation. because that is really what's going to move you along your path. That is what is ultimately going to give you the stability that you're looking for. It's not another person. It's not another situation. It's knowing that, you are one with the divine. You're a spiritual being having a, an experience in a physical body, and your purpose in a sense is to bring the quality of that spiritual world down into the physical existence. So whatever you're experiencing now, it's kind of like giving you the opportunity to foster this relationship to spirit and to start embodying that, start leading with that energy and start infusing that. And really, if you are able to do that, it could be a very transformative experience, right? So it's not just about, living a practical life and making things happen and getting ahead. But it's about kind of infusing a more spiritual side of things, like seeing everybody and everything is all connected, having that kind of sense of social and moral responsibility, doing our part, right? Asking like, what is in the highest good for all, and how can I serve others? And then kind of getting out of your own way and allowing yourself to move forward in that kind of energy. And this is also a lot about relationships to yourself and others, but also to spirit, and recognizing that spirit is a really important partner, right? So acting and making decisions in partnership with spirit and in that loving energy is never gonna lead you astray, right? The more that you can connect with that, the more easy it is to trust that you're in this position for a reason. Like, nothing lasts forever. Change is kind of constant. And so whatever you're experiencing right now is offering you an opportunity to learn something, or to be grown or changed in some way. So this also connects to like our inspiration as well. So if there's something in particular you feel very inspired to act on, or you feel really passionate about, it's trusting that those things that call to you passionately are very well connected to this kind of divine energy, right? Because this divine energy, that is creativity, right? And we are the ones who kind of siphon that down and take action and manifest it in the physical reality. So you may be guided particularly as an outlet to, maybe you have some form of creative expression, or you've got like a passion project or something. And so it's recognizing that giving yourself time to do those practices, that can be a spiritual practice in and of itself, because that can be a time that you connect to spirit, and that can be a way that you strengthen that relationship as well. And so it's important to recognize like what we're focusing on, what we're giving energy to. And if we're focused on the kind of menial petty things in life, like being right, or having control, or holding on to failed expectations, or like resentments or disappointments about anything and anyone, because if we're focused on those things, that's the energy that we're using to create from, instead of connecting to this higher power and this energy that's really like a more high vibrational, right? And so the beautiful thing is that even if you have been in a place where you've been focused on those things that are maybe not so great, right? Those things that have disappointed you and angered you, you can choose at any time to work through and release that. And I'm not going to trivialize that and make it sound like it's an easy thing, but spirit's always waiting for you to connect, right? And spirit doesn't want you to be partnered with that low vibrational energy, because what you can create with the help of spirit and by connecting more to yourself in that capacity is going to be so much more wonderful and so much more beautiful than something that is born of resentment or disappointment, right? Like that doesn't really fan the flames of our creative spark, whereas this higher power does. So yeah, that's something something to keep in mind, however that might apply for you. I'm going to get you guys some tarot, and we'll see. Maybe that will give us a better idea. So your first card is showing up as the Ten of Swords. Oh, geez. Your second card is showing up as the Tower. So yeah, this tells me there might be like something major that's shifting or changing or falling away. And perhaps that's this need for a spiritual stability rather than a material one. Okay, and your third card is showing up as the Knight of Wands. Right, and we have death and rebirth at the bottom of the deck. Okay, so this paints kind of an interesting picture. So, especially with death and rebirth here, that does kind of connect to this higher power, the sense of there being, you know, a lot more in the spiritual realm, like beyond what the eye can see. So you may or may not consider yourself to be a particularly spiritual person, but if you do have any sensitivities, or if you have any kind of inclination, any spiritual practice, or if you feel curious or interested, yeah, this is a very good month to kind of lean into that, because not only could it be part of your self-care, but it can be part of this establishing this foundation within yourself. So an emotional and spiritual foundation and stability that will help you to kind of ride the waves of life, right? All of the ups and downs, and remain in a place where you can feel good about yourself and the way that you are responding to things, regardless of how potentially challenging or how potentially easy and beautiful things are. So with death and rebirth at the bottom of the deck, that is the underlying energy. So it could be deep or past or more recent past, but that's kind of informing this. And this is kind of like the life cycles, right? So it's like we're born of the world, you know, we grow, we have these experiences and challenges, and we overcome them, and we're strengthened, and you know, we kind of move all the way through, and then it's, you know, we die and we return back to the earth, right? So it's also to do with endings and beginnings. So death and rebirth doesn't have to be just like physical death. It can be the death of a version of ourselves, a death of a version of someone else, a death of a relationship, right? It's about endings and beginnings. And with every single thing that ends, something new will begin to take its place. The cycle continues infinitely. There's no way to stop it. And so that's the beautiful thing, is that although endings can be difficult, right? Change can be difficult to navigate, and it can be difficult to deal with the material and emotional implications of something ending. But the beautiful thing is that there's always going to be another door that opens. And so as much as we don't necessarily feel ready to capitalize on an opportunity or step into a new version, it's there nonetheless. And you know, time keeps moving, and the cycles keep going. So really, you know, there's an innate rhythm to life that to a certain extent we can't avoid. So we're going to be in that cycle regardless. So the best thing that we can do is to try to understand and honor it, and to do what we can to flow with it instead of against it, right? Because you know, you're not going to swim against the current and win. Yeah, and so yeah, you might be in a particularly transitional period. There might be a lot of beginnings and endings. Maybe you're stuck on endings and having a hard time figuring out how to start the next stage. But that is definitely informing, and it's reminding you that this is a transformational period. And as difficult or challenging as these things can be, this is kind of the way that we level up in life. Sometimes it's really difficult and painful. Sometimes there's loss associated with it. And sometimes it's really inspiring and open-ended, right? So it's just remembering that it's a natural part of life. And if you're struggling, it's just keeping that little spark of hope, knowing that there's always something new. There's always another door opening, and there is more out there for you. And so what you need to know this month is showing up as the 10 of Swords. And the 10 of Swords is all about being at the end of a potentially long and hard road. Maybe you've experienced a lot of pain and discomfort. Maybe you've experienced a lot of challenges. And this could be like, it could be emotional, but it could be as a result of, relationships, things that have been done or said to you. But it can also be things that we do to ourselves, the way that we are unkind to ourselves, like maybe limiting beliefs, negative thoughts, right? Disempowering approaches. And these could be things that were ingrained in us as children. These could be things that we kind of began to believe as a result of relationships with others or things that were modeled for us. So it can be unconscious. But a lot of times it has to do with how our own perceptions of ourselves or others or situations, how our beliefs about those things can damage us, right? So sometimes we take our thoughts for reality, but our thoughts might be inspired by pain, right? Or our thoughts might be inspired by something that is not necessarily helpful that we picked up from someone else, right? It might not be reflective of us, who we are, what's most important to us, right? So it could just be like pain and suffering that has been handed down that's informing, right? So for example, if you believe you're not worthy of love, right? That might be something you may not even consciously be aware of it, but it could be fueling your thoughts and your perceptions of yourself, of your significant other, or potential options in terms of, romantic partners. And it could manifest in your family, in your workplace, in terms of just a sense of worth, right? So it's like the things that we say and think and believe, that's ultimately what we see in the world. That's reflected back to us. What you're focusing on grows. And so this could be, because it's showing up in what you need to know, it's kind of saying like you at the end of the day are the one that gets to make the decision, to focus on the thoughts and the beliefs that work for you, that empower you, that are ultimately going to take you in a direction that feels better for you, right? So it's recognizing that when it comes to fear and anger and frustration, when it comes to limiting beliefs, things that make us feel stuck, you know, we can choose not to engage with that, right? First, we have to be consciously aware of the things that inspire that reaction within us. And then when we start to pay attention to how we feel and how we behave when we're impacted by that energy, we can see that it's not necessarily serving us or our highest good. It's not causing us to make decisions that are representative of what we want or making us happy. Right. And so when you can start to break down the ways that those challenging perceptions keep you stuck and keep you from moving toward the things that feel better, then it's easier to release them and recognize that beyond a certain point, hanging on to those energies is basically, committing yourself to staying stuck or staying in a place that doesn't serve you. And so this is basically saying like there's a lot of opportunity for you to kind of release those past resentments, those past pains, those failed expectations, the disappointments, the things that are kind of causing you to be, to step away from yourself and your true nature, right? And it's basically saying you can let those go. And that can be scary, right? Being at an end and letting go of the things that are not making you a happy, healthy person, or that are keeping you stuck in a version of yourself that is not really who you want to be. And just by releasing that, you allow yourself the opportunity to say, I'm not going to tie my energy up in things that are not good for me anymore. And, inevitably there will be things that we have to deal with that we might feel reluctant to face. But by allowing ourselves to connect with something better and lighter, look, the horizon is bright, right? So we don't see the landscape. We don't know what's there. We don't know what's going to happen or how everything is going to unfold, which can be a little bit scary or daunting, but there's also a huge amount of freedom in that. But in order to capitalize on that freedom and connect with something better and more aligned, to follow our intuition, it's hard to follow our intuition when we're tied to things that are the opposite of that, right? When we're tied to fear, and anger and frustration and those lower vibrational energies. And so when we can release those, then we have created the space for this energy to come in. And it's a matter of kind of feeling your way forward. You don't have to know what the first step is, because sometimes just releasing that like black cloud and those unhelpful perceptions just gives us the space to receive, a more divine insight. And the traditional depiction of this 10 of Swords is actually a person laying on their stomach with 10 swords in their back. So it can be like a sense of rock bottom. It can be a sense of like being like on the verge of death or breakdown, like, having been through the ringer, but it's like you've learned, right? And sometimes what happens is we're pushed to that point of breakdown. We're pushed to that point where we've suffered so much that we kind of question our ability to handle things moving forward. But it's in being pushed to that point that we kind of realize our limits. We realize we're stronger than maybe we had given ourselves credit for. And by experiencing those challenging things, as much as they're not fun, sometimes it gives us a better perspective on what really truly is important to us and what we really want. And so it's recognizing that those challenges, it's important not to hang on to the negative aspect of them, right? It's important not to become a victim of life, because if those situations are happening just to help you recognize the things that are not serving you, then it's really about recognizing and releasing, right? And bringing in something new. And it's really difficult to do that if we're butthurt about, the experiences that we've had that got us to this point. So, the human experiences, we tend to glorify those really challenging, awful things. And, we complain and we feel bad for ourselves. And, it is difficult and there's a lot of emotion to process, and it's okay to feel shitty when stuff doesn't go right. But just like we can allow ourselves to feel the negative aspect of life's challenges and experiences, we're also allowed to take something positive of it, right? It doesn't have to be a loss, and that's what this is about. So clearing out those things that you have outgrown, those things that don't serve you or that keep you stuck or in a place that you don't want to be, so that you can connect to more. And your challenge is showing up as the Tower. The Tower is a massive shift. So this can be a breakdown. It can be a breakdown of a relationship, like a loss of something or someone, a career. Essentially, it can be just like a major life change. So something huge and potentially foundational has changed in such a way that it's not going to be the same any longer, right? So it's like this tower has been struck down by a storm. It's crumbled down to its foundation, and it is no more. And so it's dealing with the implications of that kind of loss and of that kind of destruction. And those can be like far and wide reaching, right? So there can be a lot of emotional implications. There can be a lot of mental implications. There can be a lot of thoughts and fears that come in. And then on the practical side, there can be a lot of work to do, right? In terms of cleaning up after it, figuring out, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to clean up this mess? And when am I going to rebuild, and what am I going to rebuild? So this can be a really chaotic energy, and it can be, there can be a lot of grief and sadness and struggle associated with it. So how the Tower energy manifests for you, whether it's something that you're currently going through or something that's on the horizon, or something you've been working through for some time, it's not an easy energy, right? And especially like what I was saying before, if you rely on your external circumstances and your life situation to have a sense of structure and stability, because you don't necessarily feel that stability internally. If you tend to be a mercurial person, if you're really sensitive, if you're prone to like rapid changes of mind or mood swings, or if you have a difficult time like regulating your emotions, sometimes it's having order and structure and stability in our relationships and the external world, and looking to other people to kind of keep us grounded and stable, that helps us get away with feeling a little bit unstable on the inside, right? And so things may be doing an about face, right? You may no longer have that stability. You may no longer have that comfort to lean on. And maybe the things that you had, the life that you had built for yourself that was relatively stable and secure and comfortable, perhaps it's changing and shifting in major ways. And you're no longer feeling that sense of stability. And that's a challenging thing, right? Because if we're feeling ungrounded emotionally and spiritually and mentally, and then our physical environment is not as stable, that can leave us wide open and leave us feeling really vulnerable. And so, yeah, I think that's where this higher power comes in. It says you may not have control over your external circumstances. You may not have control over your relationships. There might only be so much that you can do in terms of like taking practical steps. So really what you're going to have to rely on is cultivating that internal stability, that emotional stability, that sense of kind of being unshakable regardless of what's going on in your external circumstances. That's going to help you navigate the challenges that come with the tower, with the destruction and the rebuilding. And the other thing is, like, as much as the tower can be a destructive, challenging energy, it's also important to see that, like, there's transformation. So people and things and experiences are transformed. It's not all a loss. It's part of this death and rebirth cycle. So although things have changed, it's also important to look for the opportunity to see how there's a chance to grow, or see what can come out of this, right? Like I said before, you know, as much as things can feel difficult, it's not all a loss, but sometimes it's up to us to determine, like, what are we going to take from this? How are we going to allow ourselves to be fortified or transformed? And the beautiful thing is, with this crumbling, there is an opportunity to rebuild. And basically, if the foundation was crumbling and something has been knocked down, perhaps it wasn't meant to last forever, right? And now you're being offered the opportunity, although it may be painful right now, and there may be a lot to work through. When the time comes to rebuild, you are going to be empowered to build something that serves you, something that's going to be strong, something that will stand the test of time and the elements, right? And something that is going to be representative of what's most important to you. So yeah, that may kind of show up differently for each and every one of you. And your advice for working through the tower is showing up as the Knight of Wands. And I think that's really beautiful, because the Knight of Wands is a very, very authentic, in tune kind of energy. So it's like you've got the wild stallion energy, right? So knights are fast moving. They're about action. They take inspired action. They're charismatic. They enjoy, they enjoy expressing themselves. They enjoy interacting with people. And the thing is, it's like dancing to the beat of your own drum, right? So being uninhibited, being authentic, not worrying about what anyone thinks, right? And I don't mean acting in a way that could be harmful or being reckless, right? Because we have this responsibility to ask ourselves, what is in the highest good of all, and how can I handle this in a way that I can feel good about on all levels, right? But this is more self-expression in terms of your joy, your passion, your creativity, right? That light that's inside of you that makes you who you are. It's about embracing that and expressing that, shining that, right? Whether the people around you are in the same energy, whether people think you're weird or not, it's not limiting yourself, right? Because the more that you can get into that authentic energy, the more that you can feel confident to express yourself and to be yourself, right? So this is the type of energy, like, this person is not going to say yes when they mean no, right? They're not going to do things out of guilt. They're not going to hold themselves back from opportunities because they're afraid of how people are going to respond to them, right? They're going to do things out of love, from a place of love, from a place of happiness. They're going to allow themselves to be moved by their inspiration and to kind of shine this light. And the more you shine that light, the more you draw in other people that respond to that, right? And so that is kind of this, like, energy that might help you keep moving forward when you might be tempted to stop. So it's kind of remembering that you're kind of marching to the beat of your own drum. You're following your own path, but in order to follow that path, you have to be connected to yourself and your inspiration. You have to be connected to your authenticity, and you have to be kind of fearless in expressing that, right? And because this creativity and this energy, it is attached to the divine. Like I said, a lot of our inspiration and our creativity does come from that connection to a higher power, and to channel that through. So the more that you can connect with yourself, right? Who are you underneath all of the things you've been told about yourself? Who are you underneath all the things you've told yourself, right? All of these limiting beliefs, all of these things that have kept you small or hidden or feeling like you're not enough, right? What is the converse of that, right? Because maybe you don't truly know who you are, or maybe you feel like you've never really had a space to be that person because you feel you haven't had somebody willing to receive it. And this is saying you have permission because spirit will receive it. You are co-creating with spirit first and foremost, and spirit already knows who you are, right? Spirit already knows your potential. Spirit is asking you to connect with that potential, to realize that potential, and to be moved by it, because there isn't going to be a space in your life for that authentic energy unless you give it to yourself, right? So it doesn't matter, right, if nobody else has kind of made a space for you. This is about you making a space for yourself, right? And the more that you're in this energy, the easier it is to be in a place of unconditional love and kindness, and to, make decisions that are going to be loving and kind to all, right? It's easier to connect with that universal kind of flow of love when you're in this space, right? So allowing yourself to experience joy really helps to kind of move through these difficult transformative experiences. Right. And I'm going to quickly share with you a couple of channeled messages that I got before I started your reading. So funny enough, it was before any of these cards came out, but the first message was endings and beginnings. And so I definitely got the sense of being in a period of transition. Something might be ending. Yeah, like I said, whether it's a relationship, a job, a version of yourself, just something that's familiar. And so you might be moving through processing how things are ending and how things need to change, and preparing yourself to move in a new direction. And that's the thing too, is like you might have difficult and fluctuating emotions, right? So there might be sadness about what's ending, but excitement about what's yet to come. And so, yeah, I would just say, just be gentle with yourself, because these transitional times can be really challenging. And yeah, I think that's why you're being guided to maintain this relationship with spirit, and to kind of focus on your internal world to help give you that stability as you navigate these things. Your next channeled message was the alchemy of life. And I thought that was really beautiful, because it's basically an awareness of and appreciation of all of the experiences that we have throughout our lives, all the people that we meet, the relationships we have, the challenges we face, and recognizing that, we're not just here in a practical capacity, right? We're not just like mindless, numb individuals, like just, eat, sleep, and work until we die. We are constantly being transformed, right? We are constantly in the process of alchemizing the experiences that we're having in life, right? So how those change us. They may change our perceptions, our thoughts, our beliefs. They may move us emotionally, right? They may change us in physical ways that ultimately kind of send a ripple effect through the rest of our existence. So it's, I think, an awareness of and an appreciation for how life transforms us. And that is the purpose, right? We're not here to eat, sleep, work, die, and just accumulate a bunch of stuff. We are here to be transformed by life. We are here to struggle. We are here to succeed. We are here to experience the whole kind of range of emotions and ups and downs on a human scale. And so if ever you find yourself fixating on a particular challenge or a particular situation, it's keeping that in mind, that this is just part of that experience of being transformed by life. Sometimes we wish we could hit the pause button, and sometimes they're easier than others. But as I said before, change is constant, so it won't last forever. And then the last message that came through was icing on the cake. And with Aries season coming up, this could be literal in terms of a birthday. The funny thing is, it's like, I don't know, icing is awesome, right? Icing's delicious. It's an integral part of the cake. It's decorative also. But a lot of times when we say icing on the cake, we're like the straw that broke the camel's back. Oh, this is a shit Sunday, and this is a cake of shit and shitty things, and then this last thing happened, and that's just the icing on the cake. And so it's like, well, but icing's supposed to be delicious, right? Icing's supposed to be awesome. So the thing that came up with that immediately is, especially if you use that as a term for something like this is just the last crappy thing that happened, it could be time for just a shift in perspective and say, is there another way to see this, right? Is there an opportunity? Is there something positive? Is there a learning experience that I'm not seeing, right? Is there maybe something sweet and beautiful here after all? So something to keep in mind. I'm going to get to you final oracle messages before we finish. Okay, I had a pile of cards fall, so I'm just going to wait because we just want one for you. Whatever. This is the Crystal Spirit Oracle, which I haven't used in a while, but it has some really nice messages. And the cool thing too is that if you're into crystals and you feel drawn to the crystal that comes out for you, that's something that you might want to look into. Again, I keep getting bunches of like 3 or 4 coming out for you. It's like, I guess we just can't rush this. That's the thing with the cards. Oh my gosh. Okay, this one jumped out on its own. Labradorite. Okay. Actually, this ring is labradorite, and this little heart here is labradorite as well. Okay. So I'm just going to read from the guidebook for you. Let's find it. All right, labradorite, essential meaning. Awakening to the magic within, mystery and synchronicity, help from unexpected sources. So yeah, it is a very kind of like metaphysical, spiritual stone. So something to keep in mind. As we go about our healing work, bringing love and light into the dark corners of our hearts and our lives, we can forget that alongside reason and logic is the very practical tool of magic. Do you think of magic that way, or did you buy into the notion that the healing toolbox contains only what can be defined, tested, predicted, and controlled by humans and their current technology? Labradorite Spirit is here to tell you to believe in the mystery of how the conscious universe finds ways to support us in healing what is broken, for its ways are magical. You are being called to make a conscious choice to acknowledge the reality invisible to the senses that makes itself known through meaningful coincidences. Pay attention to synchronicities bearing messages from the conscious universe, which is eager to see you replace what you have lost and repair what has become frayed or broken. Listen to the part of you whispering that something small and seemingly insignificant has great importance, for it is speaking the truth of magical synchronicities. And then relationship. Labradorite Spirit's message to you today is to be open to the magic synchronicities so you release your fears about love and open to it fully. Look for the signs that you are loved, for they will reassure you that the conscious universe is working to co-create the loving partnership that you desire. Perhaps the relationship you're in has more potential than you think, or perhaps it is an important opportunity that will prepare you for the one that you truly deserve. Give up the need for certainty right now and instead leave room for magic and open yourself to the signs from the conscious universe pointing you to what you need to know most at this moment. You deserve that loving partnership you seek for yourself, so let the conscious universe help you co-create it. Prosperity. Logic, reason, and facts are important as you work to co-create the wealth that will support you in your quest to live according to your purpose and feel your interconnectedness with the universal consciousness that loves you. Even so, do not overlook the role of magic in creating what you need. Synchronicities abound, the meaningful coincidences that you strongly sense are guiding you to think differently, act differently, and reconsider what your mind told you was the indisputable truth. You are meant to prosper, and the conscious universe is trying to help you enjoy a life free of fears about money and abundance. Messages are being sent your way to ensure that you align with affluence and see it manifesting before your eyes. Be excited now, for the conscious universe is eager to lead you where you need to go to experience the prosperity that belongs to you. And then meditation. Labradorite is a stone of magic that opens up our third eye and assists us in seeing the unseen. Meditation with the stone illuminates our darker aspects, which, once embraced and fully integrated, often turn out to be our strengths. Labradorite protects the energy fields and can be utilized in magical workings, shamanic journeys, and astral travel. So that's really interesting. I don't even know, like I can't really expand on it more than that, right? So during this time, this also kind of, I think, hits home this higher power thing. So maybe part of how that spiritual journey is going to progress for you and how you're going to recognize and make more room for a spiritual partnership or a partnership with spirit is by recognizing these signs and synchronicities, right? And allowing yourself to see, like, what if you were to believe that your life is divinely guided and things are unfolding as they need to, and these experiences are helping to shape you, right? And what kind of little intuitive nudges and signs and synchronicities are speaking to you, and what are they saying, right? So that is going to help you navigate whatever it is that feels as though it's kind of chaotic or falling away or unstable. Right, and we're getting one more oracle message. So we've got birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. All right, so I'll just read this for you. Okay. So for this card, it says, often our path is exactly the one we don't feel prepared to walk. Walk it anyway. So that goes hand in hand with that reluctance. Often what is rising feels far bigger than we could possibly hold. Be a container for it anyway. Often our creations seem to have a wild, uncontrollable consciousness of their own. Birth them anyway. Often what is ours to do is the very thing that most intimidates us. Be courageous and do it anyway. We are birthing a new age. Right now, we're in a transition period between ages. In the process of allowing the old cycle to fall away and the new to rise, like driving in the fog and trusting the road will appear ahead, we need to release old identities in ways that no longer serve us, using our intuition as a compass. You are part of a group of souls who have been incarnating at significant periods of history, preparing for this exact time, dreaming a new world into being. Magdalene sisters, daughters of Isis, Essenes, priestesses, witches, mystics, healers, seers, artists, midwives, visionaries, guardians of the earth, and storytellers from times past. It is time to give permission and space for what is beckoning within to be born. We are dreaming a new world into being. So yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand with this transformation, right? So in all these endings and beginnings and all this stuff that's going on, it's like you may be going through a major transformation yourself. And there is a work your light activation, which says, hold the card on your heart. So I'll hold it up and maybe you can just envision doing so if you want to do this activation. Hold the card on your heart and say, I am open to surrendering to the creations that are wanting to be birthed through me. May I be of service in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. Please use me. Please lead me. Please show me the way. Yeah, and I think that's really nice, actually, because it's kind of opening the door for your relationship with spirit to grow, right? So prayer and meditation is going to be the number one way in terms of connecting to yourself. And when it comes to spirit, there's only so much that can be done, right? We have to kind of open the door. We have to put it out there. If you have a question, if there's something that you need help with, it's kind of, ask and you shall receive. So it's a matter of asking and then being open to the ways that support or that information or encouragement might come through for you. And if you feel drawn to do that, this could be a really magical month for you to experience those synchronicities and come more into clarity. I'm just going to get you a couple of, sorry, that sigh wasn't because of you. I'm going to get to a couple of affirmations that might be helpful to you either right now, throughout the month, or on the daily. All right, we get one more. There we go. Okay, so your first affirmation: I measure my success by how much fun I'm having. So I think that's really important. So success, stability, these things may not be empirically measured at this time. It may not be in a tangible way, right? You might not be able to identify yourself with your external circumstances. So let's look at success as being, you know, an expression of fun and joy. And so instead of measuring yourself up in very practical ways, the best way to figure out if you're being successful in the moment is to see how much fun you're having and to make room for fun. Right? And then your next affirmation: obsessing over the outcome of a relationship gets in the way. Instead, I let go and allow. Yeah, so it's basically like relationships are major vehicles for change. That can be through beautiful experiences or challenging experiences, but trying to control and trying to predict and kind of worrying about how things are going to go and how they're going to end up just kind of ties up our energy and sometimes prevents us from learning the lessons that we're meant to learn, right? So basically just kind of flow with it and release the need to control. See what your relationships are showing you, where they're taking you, and kind of allow yourself to feel things through organically. And your last affirmation is: my presence is my power. Yep. So being in the moment, being aware of what you're feeling and thinking and experiencing, bringing those energies into alignment so that you can make your energy work for you, and kind of just be efficient in terms of your focus and what you're working on, particularly if things are kind of chaotic. So Aries, I'm going to leave your reading here. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy the reading, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, or you can leave me a comment. Let me know what you think or how it resonated. Beyond that, if there's anyone you could think of that might be interested in my readings, you can share my channel or my content with them. And if you haven't already, make sure you hop over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Ensure you're not only subscribed to the channel, but also signed up for notifications. It's the little bell icon that will keep you updated on new readings as they're posted. So Aries, I hope the remainder of this month is beautiful. So excited for you to be coming into your birthday season. It's been an absolute pleasure to read for you, and I'm very much looking forward to reading for you next month. So in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.